Welcome to the Revolution of Purpose podcast. I'm your host, John Street, and each week we bring you conversations with thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and individuals who have aligned their life with purpose and created extraordinary results.
So I'm going to live through it and accept it radically with grace and hope and love.
I would be proud to be in this council.
It was an honor. I had so much fun.
Tune in every Monday for the Revolution of Purpose solo show and every Thursday for Revolution of Purpose conversations. Welcome back to another episode of the Revolution of Purpose podcast conversations. So this show, we are exploring stories, mindsets, and moments that help people discover who they were created to become and live a greater purpose. Today's guest is someone that I have really been looking forward to introduce to you. I first met Puneeth, I'm going to say it wrong, Puneeth Upadhya, am I correct?
Yep, correct.
I got it. That's amazing. I first met Puneeth Upadhya at a conference in Austin, Texas, and from the very beginning, I was struck by two things. First, his confidence. He's not arrogant, but he has a quiet confidence of someone who knows who he is and the value that he brings. And then second, his ability to bridge two worlds that you often don't see come together. The analytical world of engineering and systems and business operations. And then those come together with that deeply personal work of mindset, leadership, and identity. Puneeth is the co-founder of and managing partner of Accelerate, where he helps entrepreneurs identify the bottlenecks that are keeping their businesses from growing. But as I spent time reading through his work, I realized something really interesting. While many consultants focus almost exclusively on process and systems, Puneeth keeps coming back to one word over and over and over again, and that is identity. He believes that lasting business transformation begins with leadership transformation, and that often the greatest bottlenecks in a business is not the strategy, it's the beliefs, the habits, and the identity of the founder. I love that because if you've been following the podcast, you know that that is a conversation that we've been having a lot recently. So today we're going to extend that conversation and we're going to explore not only how to build a business that can thrive without depending on its owner, but also how becoming the right person often comes before building the right business. Puneeth, thank you so much for being here. I'm really looking forward to this conversation with you, my friend.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for having me, John. That was an amazing intro. So I loved hearing it. Thank you so much for the kind words.
You're so welcome. So I want to start with a question that I actually ask everyone who appears on here, and I think it's so telling. Who are you today, Puneeth, that your younger self would be proud of?
Ooh, wow, starting off with a banger question. I am someone who no longer cares what other people think. And that was completely different from how I grew up, honestly. So I am a mindset coach. I own a consulting and coaching company. I love to speak on stages. I love to coach one-on-one. I love to help people with their mindset to really overcome limiting beliefs and take their business and life to the next level. And that is completely different than what I ever anticipated I would do growing up, right? I grew up very much in the STEM field, engineering background. That's what I studied in college. I started my career as an engineer in the medical device industry. And so to now be here, where my last name, Upadhya, actually means teacher, and Puneeth means purified, right? So
that's perfect.
Purified teacher. I now get to teach for a living. And I remember the things that kept holding me back from doing this were truly just fear of criticism, right? Fear of rejection, whether it's from, what does my family think? What would my friends think? And now to be able to make that choice and for that to be my life now, I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. I truly love what I do, and I'm so grateful that, John, I get to talk with you on a Monday morning at 10 a.m., right? Whereas the version of me from 2, 3, 4 years ago would be logging into work, had the Sunday scaries, and then logging into to start another day of work that wasn't really in alignment with my purpose. So that's who I am today, as someone who doesn't care what other people think and doesn't let other people's perceptions of me affect my decisions today.
I love that, Puneeth. And I love the term Sunday scaries. I've never heard that before, but that's exactly what you have, though, for so many people that still wear the golden handcuffs. For the people that are still, in that 9 to 5 grind, you have that feeling around 7 o'clock Sunday night where you realize, oh no, tomorrow's Monday. I hate that. Whereas thankfully, once you launch your own business, you may still have some trepidation, like, I have a lot to do this week, but at least you're like, you know what? It's on my terms. And there's a big difference in that.
100%.
And so talking about not caring anymore about what people think. So in your upbringing, in the path that brought you here, were there voices that made you feel like you had to be an engineer or you had to do a certain career, and at some point you chose a different path? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of that. I think growing up, I was always really good at math and science, and so naturally, I didn't really even think about business, right? I think from pretty early on, math and science was my bread and butter. Was always good at it, and so engineering felt like the natural or really only path, honestly, for me. Especially growing up in like from the Indian culture, that people joke around that like really what you can do to make your parents happy is be an engineer or be a doctor, right? And those are basically your only two options growing up in an Indian household. And so I checked that box, right? And my little brother, Puneeth, is checking the box of being a doctor. He's about to go into med school. I'm so proud of him. And so for this time, right, we checked off both of those boxes. But then I realized that, as I was looking at the long-term trajectory of being an engineer, I was like, okay, well, my income's going to increase maybe 3 to 5% a year with the occasional promotion every 3 to 5 years, right? And a lot of that felt out of my control. Whereas I just had this feeling, this intrinsic feeling that I was destined for more and wanted to really accelerate my growth. I wanted to do truly what I love and make more of a direct impact on people. Whereas I worked kind of in a billion-dollar company where it felt like my decisions I was just a cog in the machine. I wasn't like my decisions weren't really making an impact on that end user as much as I would like it to be. So I definitely felt kind of that parental pressure, right, of staying as an engineer. That was one of the hardest things to navigate when I finally ended up choosing to put in my 2 weeks notice, right, and go all in on my business. That it was harder for me to tell my parents that versus actually putting in my 2 weeks notice and leaving that stability. But that was so critical for me that I just knew it deep down, John, like that was the last thing that I needed to let go of for me to really see that quantum leap. And that's exactly what happened. I remember, the very next month after I left my engineering job, well, the very next day, actually, I got an inbound call from someone wanting to work with me as a one-on-one coach for one-on-one coaching, and truly came out of nowhere, right? And he paid me what I would have made as an engineer. And that was the very next day. So I knew I had made the right choice. And then the next month, I remember tripling my income compared to my engineering job, right? And then just a few months later was, the $100,000 month, right? Which was truly like a 12x of what I would have made as an engineer. And so that was the last thing that I really felt like I needed to truly let go of to see that hockey stick in my growth. Truly.
That's amazing, Puneeth. So what do you think came first? Your identity shifting or the call? Like, was it the call saying, hey, you're hired, I need you as a one-on-one coach? By the way, you'll see my dog throughout this. My dog Judah has definitely become the mascot of this podcast, and he loves to roam. But so was it deciding to leave the job or was it having left the job, or was it the call saying you're hired as a coach? What was it that shifted your identity? Which came first, the chicken or the egg? The identity or the results?
Oh, the identity for sure. You know that, John. I
Yeah.
I just it was a whole journey for me, honestly, and there was a lot of letting go in the process, but it started with the goal, right? And I wanted a goal that really changed my identity. It required me to change how I saw myself. Because for the longest time, I was not getting results with my business, right? I wasn't even in coaching. I was in the short-term rental space. And, we got some level of success, but then we kind of scrapped everything because it wasn't really working for us. And so we were right back down to one property in our portfolio. And I remember it was because I had set this goal for myself, which was about making $5,000 a month, right? Where I was making $8,000 a month as an engineer. And so that goal didn't require me to change. And what I realized in that moment, after all 2 years of trying to get clients, trying to grow my business and not really seeing any results to show for it, I realized you can't outperform your self-image.
So that's not just something you say, it's something you lived.
It's something you live 100%. And it started with truly setting a goal of 12xing, right? Going after 100,000 months, because that then allowed me the space to identify who is that version of Puneeth. What does he prioritize? How does he dress? I wasn't wearing, suits 2 years ago, right? 3 years ago. And so it's really about how did I operate? How do I see myself? What are my thoughts? How do I move throughout the day? That identity transformation had to come first before any income showed it, right? And then I had to make that decision. Ultimately, that feeling got heavier and heavier of, hey, you really want to be a mindset coach. When are you going to make the decision to do that? And after I made that decision, that's when everything changed.
That's amazing. So in that process of making that decision, what brought you to mindset coach? Did you have specific mentors? Did you have specific examples? Who are your favorite people in the mindset space? What kind of prepared you to even learn the tools to make that jump?
Yeah, great question. So I joined a short-term rental mastermind at first, right? So I had actually bought a duplex in St. Paul, Minnesota. And that was kind of my foray into the real estate space, the business space, where one unit, I was actually living in one unit and renting out the other. And that
House
other
hacking, yes.
Yes, house hacking, perfect. Yeah. And so I had heard it from Bigger Pockets. I was like, let's just go and do this thing. And it turns out that unit was already furnished and running as a short-term rental, an Airbnb. And I had no idea about that space, right? And so I just decided to listen to podcasts. After I put in the offer, after I closed on it, I was just like, well, now time to figure it out. And so I was listening to podcasts. Mike Sjogren has a great podcast called STR Secrets. And so that's how I ended up learning about his mastermind. And I realized I want to accelerate my cash flow. I want to accelerate my growth because I just poured my savings into this first property, right? And so that's when I learned about property management and managing Airbnbs. And that's when I joined that mastermind. And one of the key things from that aspect was they gave all the tools and the resources, the blueprint tactically to grow. And for whatever reason, I was just inconsistent with it. I was so afraid of making the cold calls, sending the texts, doing the things that I knew would actually move the needle. I was sabotaging myself over and over and over again. But there was also a mindset component to that mastermind, and I loved it. I loved going to those calls. I truly did. And eventually, that led to attending an event with Dave Conway. So Dave Conway is my coach and mentor, and I truly have changed my life working with him. And that was just a really cool experience. Genuinely was recognizing that I need to change my goal and then understand who is that version of Punith that achieves that goal naturally, where that's his floor. And I just had to embody it every single day. And so those two people, I think Mike Sjogren, Dave Conway, have absolutely loved working with them. as my coach, and they really have changed my life ever since.
That is fantastic. When the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Yes,
And you
exactly.
can so see that, because really, if you hadn't have at least gone into an entrepreneurial space, so even though short-term rentals isn't where you ended, it at least got you in the mindset that you could do something. And then you felt like something wasn't working. And then you find the right coaches that get you where you need to be. And I love one thing that you just said too. You said, they helped me find my floor. So it's not that they helped you find, the top of your manifestation, the top of the goals you could reach, the apex of your mountain. They just helped you find the floor of your identity. And then from there, the sky is the limit, right? Would that be kind of fair to say, you think?
Absolutely. And I think the really cool aspect of even having a goal is continuing to push the boundaries, right? Because at first, when I looked at 100 grand a month, I was like, how would I ever accomplish that? Like, that's so much money, right? And then through this visualization, through auto suggestions, through this mindset work, you kind of start pushing past those limits. And I started thinking, well, what about making $1 million a month? What about $10 million a month? And so then all of a sudden, 100 grand a month seems doable. And so when you can start looking at it as your floor, then that is when it starts to feel normal. Your nervous system starts to regulate and feel normal with even that idea, rather than like overexcitement or fear or tension, whatever can come your way when you start thinking about big things. When you start to regulate that and it feels normal, that's when you start bringing those types of opportunities into your life easier and easier.
That is such an amazing way to put it. So that, because it's not, you hit the $100,000 a month and then you're not celebrating with a cruise around the world. You're saying, okay, this is who I am now. So I'm going to flow in that. It's almost from a sports analogy. I'm from the state of Alabama. So we have college football is huge here. And so, we had a coach named Nick Saban, and who very well known, greatest of all time, the GOAT. And but he would always say, act like you've been here before. Like when players would play in championship games, when players would play in big games with 100,000 fans in the stand, he was always telling them, act like you belong here, act like you've been here before. And I think maybe that's something that holds back entrepreneurs, is that we'll hit a certain month. We'll hit our first $50,000 month. We'll hit our first 100 grand month. And then all of a sudden, the terror barrier, as Bob Proctor would say, comes in, and it's like, it's a fluke. You shouldn't have done that. You couldn't have done that. Or on the other extreme, you'll be like, woohoo, I'm going to go blow 100 grand right now and not work for 3 months. But no, it just should become just like opening a letter out of the mailbox. Of course you hit 100 grand. This is your goal. This is your frequency. It's where you're flowing right now.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And I'll be honest too, like those are the types of things that happened to me, right? Like, and for me, even that 100 grand month, I was like, phew. At the end of it, John, I was like, that was a lot. Like it really felt like it was getting an edge on my capacity. I was like, that was a lot of meetings. I worked a lot for that. And I honestly, I took my foot off the gas pedal because I was like, I don't want to sacrifice the comforts for making this consistent. And so what I really had to learn was that that goal required me to truly get an edge on my capacity to serve more people. Right? Because I can't be comfortable in my old paradigm, old version of myself, serving only to that level and then expect to maintain 100 grand months. And so that was truly the learning lesson that came from it. Just like you talked about the terror barrier, taking the foot off the gas pedal, going back to the comfort zone. You have to keep getting an edge on your capacity. That was my biggest learning lesson with it is, hey, once you do it once, that doesn't mean it's consistent. Right? You have to recognize what went into it so you can replicate it, but you have to continue to get an edge on your capacity to serve so that becomes consistent.
And that fear of hitting it once and not again is a real fear. I called it a terror barrier. The late Bob Proctor talks about that, the fear that you have to bust through to succeed. But I think that a lot of entrepreneurs go through that, almost like we hit a goal and then it must be an accident. And so then if we're not careful, we go into a hustle culture. All of a sudden we're like, well, I'm not going to hit 100 grand again if I don't add, another 20 meetings to my day. If I don't start getting up earlier, if I'm not the Navy SEAL who's running with a backpack at 4 a.m. every morning and then booking meetings at 5. So first of all, when you coach with other entrepreneurs, is that a pattern that you see that they go through as well?
For sure. I think every human kind of has their own path, right? And so I see it a ton. I see people when they let fear come in, whether it's in the form of anxiety, worry, where is the next client going to come from, right? That idea, then it's so easy to go into the mechanical and be like, okay, I got to brute force this. I got to force it to make it happen. Whereas I've tried that. It doesn't work, right? Like that stuck energy.
It brings burnout.
Yes, it brings burnout. And so your vibration is truly what attracts your opportunities. It's what attracts your results. So you have to focus on your state of mind. I had to focus on my state of mind and truly feel abundance, right? And that doesn't mean sitting on the couch and then not doing anything, but it starts with the state of mind, then the story you tell yourself, and then the strategy. But you can't jump right to strategy and hope for different results if your state of mind is still in that place of worry or fear, because you're going to just attract opportunities in that same vibration and frequency as worry or fear.
Absolutely. I mean, the law of attraction is real, and it is a law, whether people realize it or not. They're constantly using it. It's just like gravity's real. If you don't believe it, it doesn't matter. It's still real. We're still using gravity all the time. So what are some additional, like we talked about, hitting a goal, then following your mindset into a hustle culture, or hitting a goal and then taking your feet off the brakes. What are some other patterns that you see when coaching entrepreneurs?
Ooh, one of the things that I see, and I keep harping on this with my clients, is the sales consciousness versus the management consciousness. And so when I work with a lot of entrepreneurs who they're not just starting out, right? They have an established business, but they're really looking to 10x it, 10x their business. And so when that happens, what does that require? It requires a sales consciousness. It requires thinking about serving more people. It requires the outreach or the social media, whatever your marketing and sales campaign is. It requires thinking about and creating that clear mental picture of expanding your clientele and your ability to serve more and more people. Now, when that happens naturally, when you bring in more clients, all of a sudden you have to manage those clients. And so that's something that I see a ton is like my clients, they get to 10, 20, 30 properties or clients or whatever in their portfolio. And then all of a sudden they just completely switch out of their sales consciousness into a management consciousness. I have to serve all of these clients now, right? I have to onboard them. I have to get their properties set up, whatever it is. Oh, I have to do this. Let me make sure that the service is dialed in, and they completely turn off that sales focus. Now, when that happens, they all of a sudden go from an abundance mindset to a scarcity mindset, because now they aren't expecting to make more money. They're just like, this is the amount of money that I'm working with, and so I have to stay within those confines. And if I make hires or whatever, I still have to. It's scarcity. And so when you operate with scarcity, then you're repelling the right resources in terms of people, systems, et cetera, to come your way. So what I really encourage with my clients is, hey, no matter what, like just trust that you will deliver a great service, but don't deprioritize sales. Just keep growing. Like I will tell you when you can stop, but you are nowhere close to stopping. Your service is still so good. So keep doing that, but keep serving more people, because there's more people out there that need your service. And that's what keeps them growing, even as they have more clients from the fulfillment side.
That is amazing. And I think that sort of explains my next question for you was, I noticed, reading about your business where you talk about how the founder can become the bottleneck. And I was going to ask you what does that mean? And I think that's the answer right there. The founder becomes the bottleneck if they stop operating in a sales consciousness and try to just become a manager, because then their company's going to stop growing.
For sure. And I can see it, John, just by looking at their calendar, right? Because when you're starting a business, right, there's no clients to serve. And so all you're going to be focused on is sales naturally, right? But then if I look at your calendar and your morning is just, it's, hey, team meeting, it's responding to Slack messages, it's fighting fires, making all of these decisions. And then maybe towards the end, you're like, oh, if I can squeeze in some time for cold calls, like I will do it. But guess what happens? You get so flooded with your to-do list that you don't have the energy to keep doing sales or keep doing outreach or post content on social media because there's no deadlines associated with that. So you keep putting it off. So I really encourage my clients to flip their calendar, right? And just trust that the operations can wait, right? Like dedicate your morning time to sales, to outreach, to creating content, to putting yourself out there, and then just trust that your team's got your back. They can handle the operations without you needing to be in there for just 2 to 4 hours. And then, come the afternoon, you can step back in, but just allow yourself to let go and trust the team, because that's what you pay them to do. And that's what really takes their business to the next level.
Please pardon me while I interrupt your podcast episode with a quick message. If you're enjoying today's episode, can I ask you one small favor? If you're watching on YouTube, just please take a second to hit that little bell and subscribe to my channel. Hit the like button and share this. Share it with someone who needs some encouragement today. Also, if you're listening on your favorite podcast app, I need your help there too. I would be so grateful if you'd follow the show, leave a 5-star rating and review, and share this episode with a friend. These simple actions make a tremendous difference in the growth of this show. They help these conversations reach more people who are searching for hope, searching for purpose, searching for practical mindset tools that will transform their lives. And if you're looking for even more motivation, mindset strategies, and purpose-driven content, I would love to connect with you on social media. You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at John Street Official. Also, I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn. Just search for John Street. And then one last very important thing. If you've ever found yourself asking questions like, why am I here? Am I living my purpose? How do I get unstuck in life? How do I take my life to the next level? Then I would love to invite you to schedule a free clarity call with me. Let me be clear. This is not a sales call. This is not a coaching call with someone from my team. This is nothing pre-recorded. This is a real one-on-one coaching conversation with me. And together we will explore where you are, where you want to go, and what may be standing in your way. My goal is simply to help you gain greater clarity, direction, and momentum in reaching your goals. To connect with me, to schedule your clarity call, or to learn more about the Revolution of Purpose coaching programs that I offer, please visit johnstreet.org or reach out to me on any of the social media platforms I mentioned. And now, let's get you back to today's episode. Yeah, having those non-negotiable golden hours in the morning, that's when you lead gen. That's when you get new clients. That's when you grow. Because like you said, if not, there will always be admin. There will always be plenty of admin.
Always.
But there's not always plenty of time to lead gen if you don't take that time and set it aside to do it. I think that's huge. So one sentence that I noticed on the Accelerate website that I thought was really interesting, you said a business that operates without its owner. And that sounds exciting, but I imagine for some entrepreneurs, it can also be terrifying. Have you found that many entrepreneurs actually resist putting in the systems, the hiring, the people in there so that they can flow in the freedom of being a business owner without micromanaging?
Yes. And that's the identity level transformation, right? And so I've experienced this too as an engineer, like it was so easy for me to stay within the operations. That was my identity was, hey, I'm good at operations. So I can build the systems, right? I can I can create the SOPs. All of that was like, oh, that's my bread and butter. That's what I'm so good at doing. And so I resisted letting go of that because I was so good at it. I resisted letting go of that to focus on sales because sales to me was like, oh, that's not my thing. Right. And so like it required me, again, this is where the self-image work is so key, is that 100K per month version of me prioritizes sales. I'm a world-class salesperson. And I'm a really good salesperson now, just from changing how I viewed myself. Because I started to view sales as service and helping people solve problems. And I'm really good at problem solving. And so I just required dedication to mastering my craft in that area, which meant letting go of bookkeeping. It meant letting go of responding to guests, talking with cleaners, creating SOPs, right? All the things that I was good at, it required letting go of that to create space for higher value tasks. And so that's what I see, because I've personally experienced it. I see it with my clients too, is a resistance to letting go because of this premise of like, I can do it the best. No one can do it better than I can. And that's a huge, huge limiting belief, because if you keep doing those tasks, how are you going to be expected to grow and truly 10x your business?
Absolutely. Earlier, you mentioned the Bigger Pockets podcast. I was also a huge Bigger Pockets fan. And I can remember Brandon Turner talking about the importance of doing the things you enjoy to do and then hiring people to do the things you hate to do. And the importance of that, because if you're flowing in what gives you life, you're going to do a great job at it. But so many entrepreneurs are like, no, I have to do all of it. I have to do what I hate, what I love, every bit. And what you find out are, there are some things you don't like to do that you have to do. And that's where the whole analogy of eating the frog comes in. If you know you have to eat the frog, then at least eat the frog first so that you don't worry about it all day. And then you can do the things that you love to do. But I think that it's so wild to see how many people, when their business is stagnant, because they are determined to do all of it and not give any of it off to anyone else.
For sure.
Instead of doing the things that flow with them.
Can I just add one thing to that, John?
Please do.
I would say for people like me who come from that operations background and are naturally good at that, I actually would kind of flip what Brandon Turner said, because I had to stop doing what I was good at and start doing what I was bad at, which for me, like what I was bad at was sales, right? And what I was good at was operations. But I knew I needed to grow my business. I knew I desired to grow my business. And so I actually had to let go of the things that I was good at and hand them off to people who could do it just as well, or maybe even 80% as well, because I knew it freed up the space for me to grow the business, right? And so then I had to start doing what I was bad at. And that was my frog that I had to eat, was cold calling anyways, right? Even though I was like, when I was starting, I was like, man, I hope this person doesn't respond, right? I hope I can just leave a voicemail.
Please don't answer.
Please don't answer this call, right? Like, let me just please leave a voicemail. Like, that's truly like how I started. And then, with getting reps and reps and reps, I developed confidence. And so one of the things that I really appreciated, honestly, when you said that you noticed quiet confidence, it made me a little bit emotional, because that's something that I've been working on for a long time coming. And I never used to look at myself as confident, right? Still to this day, that is something that I am truly focused on, is gaining more and more confidence. And it started with just doing the uncomfortable thing anyways, over and over and over again.
You're doing a good job at it, because in person you come across very confident, but again, not arrogant. And and your social media too. I've watched how your social media has really grown this year, and your posts and things. So kudos to you, because I know you're working on that and you're putting energy toward it, but it shows. It really does.
Thank you, John. Fantastic. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
And you heard it here first. Puneeth said Brandon Turner is an idiot. And, no, I'm just kidding.
That is not what I
said. No, that's not what he said. No, but I get what you're saying. I have a similar thing. I have a background in sales, but I also have a background in ministry. And so in the type of mindset coaching that I do, which is a little bit different, you work, a lot of entrepreneurs in high level C-suite, and I do a lot more purpose finding and people maybe just starting to figure out if they want to start a business. But I had to overcome a sales consciousness of just wanting to give everything away because I also have a background in ministry. And so I can hop on sales call after sales call and just be like, here, you just take it. Here's everything you need to do. And then be like, well, I didn't make any money, but I sure did help them,
Yeah, for sure.
And so I've had to realize for my own sales consciousness, okay, it's okay. This isn't a church anymore. It's okay to be paid for what you're doing and helping people grow in business. But I think that all of that becomes our own hero's journey. We have to decide if you need to grow in sales consciousness and you need to figure out how to do it, then find out that that's what you need and run after it. If you need to grow because you're horrifically disorganized and all you want to do is sell, but your books are a mess, then you need to tend to that. You need to eat that frog and go after it. Whatever those things are that are your weaknesses, you know what they are. If you'll get quiet, you'll know what they are.
Yeah, for sure.
Just stop ignoring them, eat the frog, and get it done. And I think that's something that probably would help any business. You can tell. I remember, I think it was Jim Rohn talking about business coaching and how he had a friend who wanted him to come and help him in his business. And he walked in his office and his desk was piled high of papers and stuff. And Jim was like, I'll come back in 2 days when that's clear, and I'm like, that makes sense though. We have to find our weaknesses and attack those before we can look at anything from a higher level.
For sure.
So I wanted to switch gears a little bit spiritually. So one of my favorite teachers is Deepak Chopra. I don't know if you're familiar with Deepak.
Is he the one that 5 a.m. club?
Maybe, but that's not how I know him. I know him from like Oprah Winfrey, Super Soul Sunday, some different stuff. She's had him, but he talks a lot about an ancient Indian principle called Dharma.
Okay.
And with Dharma, how we all have this light within us. And when we're flowing in that light, that is how we are meant to serve the community around us. And so my question for you is, do you think that by starting your own business or by being an entrepreneur, that is a way of living your Dharma?
Ooh, yes. So good. And before I forget, so the 5 a.m. club is Robin Sharma. So not
gotcha.
Deepak Chopra. So anyways, just wanted to clarify that before
I'm glad you said that.
comes
I
after
write
me.
that down.
I truly do. Like I feel like I am flowing in my purpose, and it's so much easier for me to overflow with love and abundance and service doing what I do now compared to what I was doing before. And so I had a really good opportunity for this last week, right, where I had 6 back-to-back calls, right? The vast majority of them were one-on-one coaching calls, no breaks in between. And again, I'm not recommending not having breaks, right? But that was just how the cookie crumbled that day. And a previous version of me would have looked at that as, ooh, that is going to be exhausting, right? Maybe I cancel some meetings, maybe I move things around. And this time I was just so grateful for each and every one of those calls as an opportunity to serve. And again, the interesting thing was I left that 6th and final call with more energy than when I went into the day, because I was able to truly just overflow. Like I love what I do, right? And I love the insights that I get to share. I love the transformations that I get to see happen and help contribute to with my clients and my partners and everything like that. So I don't even know if I'm really answering your question, but it truly feels like alignment, and I'm so grateful that I have the opportunity to serve in this way. It has truly just been an evolution over the past few years, and I just live with so much gratitude for that.
I think that's fantastic because yes, in flowing in your Dharma, helping other people learn how to find freedom and success in their business and shifting their identity to their own alignment, then they're flowing in their Dharma too. And that's sort of the principle of Dharma, that as we are flowing in that light that we have within us, that it spreads to other people around us and they flow and around us. I tell people all the time, my goal is to change the entire world, but it's to change it one person at a time, helping them find and live their purpose so that they're flowing in their Dharma and it spreads to one person at a time. And I feel like anyone that's living in alignment is doing that. And you certainly are, Puneeth, for sure.
Oh, thank you. That's so good. And you and I get along really well because we have such alignment with our purposes, right? Like I've written this down, but my purpose in life is to level up in every facet of my life, right? Not just wealth, but health, relationships, and impact as well, so that I can help others do the same, level up in their facets of their lives and achieve their goals, right? And so that's what's important to me, is all of this growth, me investing, so much into my education, into mentorship, my growth. Really, like, I get inspired by leveling up so that I can help others touch a higher vibration and achieve their goals as well. That's what I pray about. That's what I visualize, is seeing other people win at the end of the day.
I love that. I love that. And it happens. It is truly how manifestation works. When you're flowing in what you love to do, you visualize it, you see it happening, and it just continues to feed on each other. It gains momentum and it actually comes to pass. Like the reality that we're seeing now, as everyone who watches this podcast has heard me say, the reality we're seeing before you right now is the reality that you put here yesterday, a week ago, a month ago, a year from now. So if you don't like the reality that you are living, this is when you visualize what you desire it to look like. And the most important part of that is who you are to bring that about. Yeah. Which brings us back around to identity one more time, because I still love that in your business, you're not just focused on systems. You're not just focused on, who to hire and operations, but you really are bringing about identity. If there is someone who is starting their own business right now, they're a new entrepreneur, they feel like they're aligned in what they're starting, but it is brand new to them. What is some advice that you would give them of how to succeed?
Ooh. I would start with understanding, I would start with setting a stretch goal, right? Like a big, hairy, audacious goal, as they call it. And a BHAG. The reason is because a goal has to require you to change. Because if you have the same thoughts over and over, just like you said, John, I loved exactly how you put it, you're going to keep producing the same results. And so that was key for me, is I set a goal that did not require me to change, and I did not get really any results to show for it for 2 years. For 2 years, I was right back at one property in my portfolio. And so when I set that big, hairy, audacious goal, that stretch goal, all of a sudden that required me to identify who is that version of Puneeth that achieves those goals. What is he doing? What is he focused on? What is he not focused on? And so then it required me to make uncomfortable decisions along the way too, of making hires before the business was ready for it, right? And trusting that the right clients would come to support those hires. That was a big one. It required letting go of responsibilities, right? Letting go of identities, as thinking of myself as the operations person, letting go of relationships, letting go of the job so that I could truly go all in and commit to this work, commit to taking my business to the next level. And so if I were just starting out, right, I would set a massive goal, right? Think about what your goal is right now and then consider 10xing it. And then when you have that goal, commit to it. Make the decision. I am achieving this goal. And start to get clarity on who is that version of John or Puneeth that achieves those goals. And when you start embodying that every day, that state of mind, then naturally this strategy is going to come with it. And again, I'm not saying, hey, just visualize, do affirmations, do all that and not do anything else. That's not what I'm saying. But the best advice I can give you is that, because if you just get started and keep committing to improving yourself, keep getting in the habit of talking to more people, telling more people about what you do, the sales will come, the growth will come, the learning lessons will come. Just keep embodying that 10x version of yourself and trust the process along the way.
Ah, fantastic, man. I could listen to you speak about this all day. I love it. I'm just eating it up. You're so spot on, Puneeth. Absolutely. That's phenomenal.
Thank you.
So I'm going to move to a quick kind of lightning round.
Okay,
And then we'll start wrapping things up. But you don't have to overthink these first things that come to your mind. But
Okay.
What is one book everyone should read?
Power of Awareness by Neville Goddard.
Oh, yeah. The OG.
All about assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And there's layers to that. Truly, there's so many layers. It's something that I study every single day. So don't just read it once. Read it a bunch of times.
Gosh, I love Neville Goddard. He's my favorite. I love him. What is a morning habit that you never miss?
Visualization. Visualizing my goal being achieved. And I'll just say this. When you wake up, you are in your theta states. And so your subconscious mind is a lot more impressionable. So when you visualize your goal being achieved, rather than waking up and being anxious about all the things you have to do, when you can shift into a visualization with all that gratitude and abundance, that will change the course of your day and that'll change your life. It's changed mine.
Oh, amazing. What is the best leadership advice you've ever received?
Ooh, the best leadership advice I've ever received is you have to truly care about your team's goals, right? Because if you neglect your team's goals, eventually they will neglect yours.
Oh, that is awesome. That is huge. That may be the best leadership advice I've received. That was really gold right there. It's so true. What do you believe is the biggest misconception that people have about entrepreneurship?
That it can happen overnight, right? That success can happen overnight. And it's not something that I promise. It's not something that you promise, John, but this mindset work is not an overnight success, right? It is a continuous practice of shifting your thoughts, your feelings, and therefore your behavior. And so for me, right, like I've started businesses, 5 years ago, right? Like even the short-term rental business was 3 years ago. And so there's constant failure. And so I think you have to be open to failing over and over again and kind of get used to it, because that's where all the lessons are learned. And the people who are willing to persist are the ones that end up becoming successful. But you probably have to persist a lot more than you originally anticipated. And that was my biggest misconception going into entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. All the great ones failed at some point in some ways. And I used to think, well, I'm going to do it without that. I know, Bob Proctor had his car repoed, or, David Bear had, 2 homes in foreclosure. I'm like, well, I'm going to do this the right way. It's like, no, actually the hard things are what teaches us how to do it the right way. And even more so, that's all shaping us into who we have to become to be the 100,000 a month, who we have to become to be living our dharma. So yeah, that's huge. One more lightning question. What belief have you completely changed your mind about at some point in the last 5 years?
Ooh, I think the big one for me that you asked for the first thing that comes to my mind, right? It's the idea that I'm not a salesperson, right? And so as an engineer, right, and I think a lot of people might resonate with this, I immediately thought, okay, I have to outsource or delegate or partner with someone who's good at sales. And so for me, over the last few years, like I've become a really, really good salesperson that is constantly mastering my craft. And I get to do it in my own way, right? Not as the sleazy salesperson that's pushy. I get to do it in my own way, and it's generated amazing results for me. But if I continue to delegate and not take ownership of that, I would still be right where I started. So for me, it was shifting from looking at myself as purely an engineer with an operations background into a world-class entrepreneur who is also a world-class salesperson.
Awesome. And you are indeed, Puneeth. You're absolutely world-class at all of the above.
Thank you.
So today we've talked about systems, we've talked about leadership, business, identity, and success. But underneath all of that is really one question that this podcast always is exploring. And so, Puneeth, I want to ask you this question that I always ask every guest that's on here. And it is this: what is one thing about purpose that you feel most people are missing?
Ooh, man, John, you ask such good questions.
Thank you.
I think for me, it's patience in finding purpose. And again, I'm 28 years old, and so I consider myself very lucky that I found my purpose, right? But as someone who was just navigating their 20s, like I was getting impatient a lot of not really knowing my purpose or resonating with it, right? Of thinking, oh, that's my purpose. Oh, this is my purpose. And so what I think I didn't know that I wish I knew back then is sometimes it does require trying new things to get more awarenesses to ultimately understand what your true purpose is. And that's what it was for me. Was I tried a lot of different things, right? Material science, being an engineer, right? Starting a short-term rental business before finding coaching, and then within coaching, finding mindset coaching, and then even accepting that as like, this is what I love to do and this is what I'm meant to do. It required a lot of iteration along the way. And that was really important for me, is willing to try new things rather than just sit back and hope that the purpose finds you. You have to go find your purpose.
That's amazing. You awakened to it.
Yes.
And you did that. And everything that brought you there, nothing happens to us. It all happens for us.
Right.
And so everything that's happened for you, the ups and the downs, were getting you right where you were supposed to be and finding that purpose.
At the right timing too. Divine timing.
Mm-hmm. The timing's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Puneeth, thank you so much. This has been such a rich conversation, and I appreciate you sharing your story, your wisdom, and the work that you're doing to help leaders build healthier businesses, but more importantly, to help them be their best and highest identity. So before we wrap up, if someone is listening to this and they are connecting with what you've shared today, and I don't see how they couldn't, if they want to reach out to you and learn more about your work and connect with you personally, what's the best place for them to find you?
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you so much, John, for having me on the show. I genuinely enjoyed it so much. I know we could talk about this for hours if we had time. The best way you can find me is at Puneeth Upadhya on Instagram. I post content similar to this pretty much every day, and we're getting to that level and launching a podcast called Inside First, really focused on this here shortly. So Puneeth Upadhya on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok and LinkedIn too.
That is fantastic. Thank you again for being here, Puneeth. And for all of you, make sure, keep living your revolution of purpose. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If this episode encouraged you, if it challenged you, or if it helped you see your life a little bit differently, would you do me a favor? Subscribe to the podcast, leave a rating or review, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Every share helps us reach more people who are searching for hope, purpose, and a life of greater meaning. And if you're ready to stop wondering what's next and start living with greater clarity and purpose in your own life, I would love to meet with you personally. Visit johnstreet.org right now to schedule your complimentary live purpose and clarity call with me. Until next time, remember, your purpose is not something you find. It is something you awaken to, and then you choose to live it. Go make today another step in your own revolution of purpose.